Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, Director of Programming here at SFND Fest. For those who've been kind of with us for over the years, we've been kind of bringing some of the coolest, most interesting, eclectic films from around the world and independent film here to San Francisco for 28 years now. Hard to believe. And so it's always kind of neat to see what kind of bubbles up in submissions and what we kind of hear good things about. And you just saw one of the really cool docs that we ran across Titan Nerdy. And we have some of the team here. Welcome, guys, and if you can introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Jeff Nusera. I'm one of the producers and directors of the movie Titan Nerdy.
I'm Jonathan Ruane. I'm the one of the other producers and directors of Titan Nerdy.
Hi, I'm Jan Jones, aka Pickles Kintaro, and this is my weird and nerdy brainchild.
Well, this is just such a cool and fun, film that kind of works on so many levels. I know one of the things that many people are always curious about is like where do filmmakers come up with their ideas for documentaries? And so, Jeff and Jonathan, like, how did you kind of first hear about the show and like knew that you wanted to kind of take this leap of faith to kind of make a film?
Well, I'm a huge Weird Al fan, so as soon as the Titan Nerdy troupe came to LA, I got a bunch of emails about it. I got a bunch of texts about it, and I had to go. And I met Pickles that night, and soon after, she was sliding into my DMs and asking if I thought there was a documentary there. And now here we are, 10 short years later.
And Pickles, what was it about it that where you're like, look, I want to turn this into a film,
Youthful stupidity? No, I'm kidding. It honestly, it is such an amazing group of people, and they all have such unique stories. And one of the reasons I started Tight and Nerdy to begin with was to give my friends a bigger platform for the world to fall in love with them as much as I did. And traveling together, it just seems so natural. And I felt like there really was a bigger story there and something that could maybe inspire other people. And yeah, so I bugged Jeff.
And then Jeff came to me and was sitting at my kitchen table and was like, "Hey, there's this thing I saw. Do you want to make a movie?" And I was like, "Sure. Why not?" And so it
know?
happened.
And we've been sorry ever since.
Yeah. You're usually the voice of reason in these things, Jonathan. I don't know why you opted out that day.
Well, so with that kind of exuberance, right? What were kind of the next steps in like what were some of the biggest surprises that like you just didn't expect as you kind of started digging in to figure out how to weave the story together?
I thought, when we first started this journey, I was like, oh, maybe there's like a short here. Maybe there's a 15, 20 minute little fun featurette. But the more I spoke to the talent of Titan Nerdy, the more sort of universal and heartfelt their stories became to me. I was like, oh, I've lived this sort of existence. I grew up in a place where, I was an outsider, and like so many others, I saw Weird Al as like this beacon of hope. Like, oh, he's okay. Maybe I'll be okay. And to hear that from so many different walks of life felt like a story I was ready to tell.
And actually, the first shoot we did, we went up to San Francisco, and Pickles was there for work, and we went and interviewed the core four, the main four subjects, in a hotel, and they were, you know, fantastic. And right after that, we were like, we Jeff and I looked at each other and was like, "There's definitely a feature here." So.
Very well, one of the things, every film is a little bit different, but I can imagine that like when you guys are at like a backyard barbecue or a party, it's like I'm sure people have lots of questions.
Absolutely,
Um,
yes.
so as you kind of go, you'd mentioned that this is kind of a journey over 10 years. Um, you know, it doesn't surprise me in the sense of like, I think one of the things we always kind of try to remind our audience is like, it's amazing the journey that kind of documentary filmmakers and subjects are on. I mean, like being taking multiple years to kind of put together a documentary is not surprising, you know. But I think one thing I always wonder is like, how do you stick with it, you know, in the sense of like, you know, where do you find that kind of perseverance? Like, what was the thing that kept you moving along, you know, during that time and not give up hope?
I look to Jan Jones because she is a force of nature and just has this passion that is so incredible. And I'm like, we gotta like not upset her. We have to finish this someday.
Yeah, and honor the women and the people that opened up their lives to
Yeah.
us. And you know, the hardest and longest journey was, as in most documentaries, was the post-production process, the edit. And so that took you know, it took a Kickstarter campaign to fund the edit, and then it took you know, a couple of years to work through the, you know, hundreds of hours of footage we had to make it into an 81-minute movie. And then ultimately at the end of the day, the biggest hurdle was music clearance and getting sign off on music clearance to get all that kind of our ducks in a row before we could let the world see it.
Very cool. And you know, is there kind of a postscript for the film? It's like, you know, in the sense of like, I know we're going to have the pleasure in San Francisco of Tide and Nerdy performing at Sketchfest here in a few weeks. That'll be a few weeks ago by the time people see this Q&A. But like, yeah, like what do you kind of what's the kind of next steps for the troupe and you know, where do you kind of see it going? I mean, in some ways, I mean, the cool thing about a film, right, is it kind of like amplifies the message, you know? And so, do you see it as more of the film as kind of a postscript, or do you see it kind of like a megaphone for the next steps?
I think for me, it's both. All for the core four, our lives have all changed so much. You know, there are new additions to the fa extended family. There's, you know, just there's life happened to us. You know, Sketchfest gives us this really unique opportunity to perform to amazing crowds. But, you know, we're all getting older. We're all getting, you know, a little bit tired. And, you know, finding that kind of get up and go to change in beer closets and get paid tens of dollars to strip to the music of Weird Al. You know, I think Sketchfest this year might be the first time that I've ever not lost money producing this show. Um, it is a huge labor of love on our parts. And for me, it's a tremendous amount of work. So, if I can find venues and, you know, places that will make this genuinely worth the time and the effort, then yes, I will put the band back together. But like, you know, our days of performing in tiny little clubs to 50 people, I don't know that any of us have the energy or desire to really do that. It's not that we don't love performing, but you know, I'm approaching, you know, I'm a woman of a certain age. And yeah, like at what point do I put it away?
And now it's been documented and preserved for the world to see from years to come.
Oh God, I love that. Like by the time this comes out, I will be like a 50-year-old woman who has a documentary about me stripping to the music of Weird Al to share with the world. Like it is very real.
And that's very Jan Jones of you.
It's so
If I can share one of my favorite moments of last year's Sketchfest, which you know the Tight and Nerdy Troupe hadn't performed since before COVID, so that 2025 performance was the first one in about 5 years. And after the show, this woman came up to Pickles and was just in tears. And she was like, "Thank you for putting this on." She was also a woman of certain age. And she just really connected with the silliness and the bravery of these women who get up there and show off and are fearless. And it was so wonderful to see. And it was so cool to just be near it.
That's cool. You know, it's interesting. You know, people come to documentaries for lots of different reasons, you know. But the thing that I always love about this film and films like it, you know, is one is you kind of glimpse in this world that maybe you're not familiar with, you know, and you just spent, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, you know, in that world. But when you come back, um, you know, it inspires that like even if this isn't the thing that you want to do, it kind of makes you want to go do other things like it, you know, kind of Jeff, similar to what you're sharing about like how Weird Al kind of made it feel like it's okay. It's like, oh wait, yes, you can be empowered to do the things that kind of, um, make you feel happy and, get groove on. So it was really neat in that sort of way. And it's just, uh, it just is a very emotionally satisfying, film and like a not trite or corny way,
I
you know.
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. That is such a
Thank
lovely
you.
thing to say. Thank you.
So one of the things I always try to remind our audiences is that we're so lucky, when filmmakers and artists kind of share their films with us, early in its life cycle at film festivals like ours, it's our job as audience. It's like, for films that really kind of resonate with us is to go talk about it, after the screen at the bar down the street or, at work or, in today's world, like social media. So what are ways that folks can kind of follow the film, follow the troupe, and just help kind of amplify the message of the cool work that you guys do.
The film, we are at Tight and Nerdy Movie at all social medias, I think. Yeah, TikTok and
Yes.
Blue Sky and Facebook and Instagram, and Threads sometimes, maybe.
Thread sometimes, yeah. We're also on Letterbox, so if you love our movie, please go
Yes.
rate our movie on Letterbox.
Yes. You can also
And
catch
then
up with us at tightandnerdymovie.com. And then the troupe itself has some Facebooks and
Yeah.
stuff.
But we're terrible at updating those, because and by terrible, I mean it's me and I'm terrible at it. Um, Honestly, the best way to follow us is, Titan and Nerdy Movie. All of those sites do such a good job of hyping us and such a good job of amplifying, when we do something. And right now, it looks like we only do something once a year. We may have more opportunities as, this documentary comes out. I always joke that we're the little doc that could, but probably shouldn't. Um,
Yes,
that is
yes.
us in a nutshell, and we have consistently been, just underrated, and just people didn't believe in us from the start, and we always seem to kind of prove them wrong. So maybe there will be a huge demand for this, and we will be coming to a big city near you. But like, you know, the main thing for me is just like the friendship and the people we met along the way. I know that sounds
Yes.
so trite, but like over this 10-year process, these people were already my family, and now Jonathan and Jeff are also my family. It is a huge leap of faith to allow someone into your life to capture these super vulnerable moments. And I will say, and I'm so sorry, I'm so off topic, but I'm going.
Do it.
There are these moments when I'm, watching the movie and I'm cringing because there are very personal things coming out. And when I was having those conversations, it wasn't that I was talking to a documentary crew. I was talking to my friends. I was having a conversation about my life and my experience with my friends. And so it does feel incredibly intimate because of the trust that they built. So yeah, so if you want to follow them, follow Titan Nerdy Movie, because I know that they're going to have lots of cool announcements and lots of cool things to talk about. And where me is maybe not so much because it's like one show a year.
Well, thank you again for sharing your film with us, and also Pickles for sharing your and the troops story in the film. And so, thanks again, and congratulations again as being part of SFND Fest. We're very thankful.
Thank you for
thank
having
you.
us.
It's been a
We are
pleasure.
so thrilled to
It's
be a
Yes.
part of this. Thank you so much.
to be able to have our West Coast debut in the cities where we started means the world to us. Like, to have an opportunity to have the core four together to screen. I am flying in for this just because I would not miss this opportunity for anything. So thank you for believing in us.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris.